Welcome, everybody, to iNormal's Conversations about Cannabis. My name's Jack Kane. I'm the Vice Chairman of Indiana NORML, and I'm here with Grace Bell, cannabis activist and a patient. We call her Amazing Grace. She's an amazing woman. We're really excited about hearing her story today. So tell us a little bit about, give some background, Grace. Where are you from? How'd you get involved with cannabis? Some of the history you've talked about.
I got involved with cannabis probably up in Washington State. I lived in Florida when I injured my back in the 80s, and they put me on opioids, Vicodin, Percocet, etc. We moved up to Washington State in the late 80s, where cannabis was widely accepted. The whole attitude about it was completely different from the East Coast. So I started using it more or less for the fun of it. And what I realized was I wasn't using any opioids anymore.
So it definitely cut down on your opioid use?
Absolutely. I went from every day to none. Mm-hmm. None. And I felt good. It put me in a good mood. I felt like working. And there's no side effects. Mm-hmm. So when they passed medical in the early 90s, I was so grateful. My brother got his license, and I just grew mine out in the raspberries.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we pretty much grew our own up there, and with the license, the police would come by and check and count plants, etc., etc. But the whole attitude up there was so much better. And it turned out to be the best medicine ever. And then somehow I ended up in Indiana. Oh, I cannot believe that cannabis is not legal here yet.
Yeah, that's there's a whole lot of people that can't believe that, but that is the case today. So,
do you know when I got here, they were still fighting about a beer on Sunday?
Well, nobody ever said Indiana was on the cutting edge politically, or with cultural issues. So that's not surprising at all to us native Hoosiers.
So backwards.
Yeah, be hard to argue with that, especially with in regards to cannabis. So when you moved back here into Indiana, tell us about how you got involved and what's happened since then.
When I first came to Indiana, I went to the doctors to get opioids for my back because I'd shattered my spine back in the 80s.
And you couldn't get the cannabis that you're using out in Washington, is that correct?
Right. So I'm going to resort to Vicodin, which has all these awful side effects. So here they make you sign a contract and nearly beg for them.
Okay.
And that's just not my style. I wanted one pill a day so I could fall asleep. Mm-hmm. And the hoops you have to jump through to get it are ridiculous. So after a while I said, no, I don't agree with your contract. I'm not going to beg for your drugs. And I resorted back to cannabis.
Okay.
With the fear that if anybody smells it or knows about it, you're going to end up in jail. Mm-hmm. Which is sad.
It's a huge threat, and one that should not exist at all.
I mean, I'm 70 years old. I shouldn't have to worry about going to jail for using a natural medicine.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
It works. It works for me. It works for millions of others. Free the weed. Pretty simple if you ask me. Anyway.
You think, yeah.
Then I get blessed with lung cancer. And they're telling
How long ago was that?
February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. That was the day I got the news.
Ah.
So, I mean, and it's your stage 4, by the way. How the hell did I go
jump deep into the pool, huh?
Oh, shit. In 2 months. You know, I had pneumonia back in November or whatever. And they said, oh, you got a little spot on your lung. We'll look at it again in a couple of months. By then it was stage 4 cancer. So they said, okay, what's my options? And I know Indiana's not a cannabis state. I know it's not a cannabis state. And I'm going, I don't care. I'm going cannabis. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I had friends of friends make sure that I got some RSO oil. Which is,
now tell everybody, what is RSO oil?
I believe it stands for Rick Simpson oil,
Okay.
and it's extremely concentrated cannabis.
Okay.
2 doses a day I've been doing for over 2 months. And I was forced into chemo in Indiana the first round. And then after the first round of chemo, they would not do a second scan to see if the chemo worked unless I did another round of chemo.
So you'd been using the RSO, the Rick Simpson's oil, and you thought it was having an effect, but you couldn't really tell because you couldn't get another
Right.
X-ray. Is that it, or MRI scan?
Indiana refused to do another scan unless I did more chemo. Blackmail, as far as I'm concerned, from the medical industry. And since Indiana does not accept cannabis as a treatment, they would call me as doing nothing. And they wouldn't
Okay.
give me
In other
no
words, just letting your disease run rampant and
Right.
not doing anything to try and stop it.
Pennsylvania is a medical state, and my daughter lives there.
Okay.
So I went to Pennsylvania, hoping to get treated with RSO officially
Okay. So
and get the scan.
okay.
They blackmailed me into a second round of chemo because I was a new patient.
Probably trying to develop a baseline to work from. So
Right.
Okay.
So I endured a second round of chemo. And then I got the scan, and they said, yes, they're shrunk. It's wonderful. Now, what did it, the cannabis or the chemo? I'm willing to bet on the cannabis.
it's going to certainly going to have fewer side effects.
What are the side effects? I might have an appetite. I'm in a good mood.
That's right.
Life is good.
Exactly. And that's one of the things.
I don't hurt.
Yeah. So what has happened now? Give us kind of you talked about it. Its tumors are shrinking. Are they continue to shrinking? Tell us a little about where you are now and where do you think it's going to be going as you look at it in the future.
Well, since the second scan, I have continued the RSO.
Okay.
I finally got my medical card officially in Pennsylvania, by the way, so I can go to the dispensary. And apparently in Pennsylvania, the dispensary bud tenders know what kind of medicine is best for you. I haven't had the experience yet. I can't wait to get back. But the oncologist, my cannabis oncologist in Pennsylvania, said that he wanted me to do another round of chemo, and then he would do another scan. I told him I didn't want any more chemo. So I said, if I continue to treat with RSO, will you give me another scan and see if it's better or worse or no change? And he said no. And I had to resort to tears. I hate doing that, but he said, okay, if I continue to treat for 30 days, he's going to give me this scan and see if it's better, and then we'll decide on chemo at that time. I'm pretty convinced I'm not going to do chemo again.
Yeah. So now you mentioned a cannabis oncologist. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's a term I've not heard before.
Well, he's an oncologist that uses cannabis as a treatment.
As part of his modalities. So what kinds of things did you do? I mean,
You have to be certified in the state of Pennsylvania
okay.
to even recommend cannabis or even say the word cannabis. But unfortunately, he doesn't believe in it like I do.
Okay.
He
So
thinks it's a wonderful to take care of the side effects from chemo.
but not as a replacement for chemo.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And you beg to differ.
I beg to differ. That's why I said I almost had to go to tears. Is it because I am so convinced that the cannabis is shrinking those tumors? I am absolutely convinced of it.
It's hard to argue with success, and especially not just success in terms of are the tumors growing or shrinking. Obviously, that's important. But it seems to me, and I've talked with other cancer patients, that it's a quality of life issue. Okay, I mean, how are you going to deal with the like you said, the negative effects of chemo?
Look at me. I feel good.
Yeah, you look good. It's great to see you back here in
Thanks.
Indiana. Well, and the thing that's great is, it's great to see you. Okay, it's great to have you back.
You too. I
And-
missed you guys.
Yeah, well, we missed you at the 420,
God,
but
I
it was
missed you
miserable
guys.
day. So, but the thing that's the bottom line that is really disturbing is all of the stories that we're hearing, okay, from veterans, okay, who are talking the same thing as you did, had PTSD and had all of these pills that they were taking. It was destroying their lives,
Right.
you know, and Adam, who had Crohn's disease, who had to move up to Michigan, okay, now he's growing his own, and his Crohn's is in remission.
Right.
You know, and then Charlie's, the Curtises, who had their young daughter die. When you hear that story of that
that's
little
awful.
girl not being
That's
able to
awful.
get THC, and you just look and say, why? Why is this happening? And there's really no good reason for it. And now to hear you, another patient that has had trouble with one malady or another, and they wanted to use THC as a cure, and they're forbidden, and they've actually left Indiana. So that does not speak well for
I'm one of
Indiana and
them.
our future. Yeah. So,
I left Indiana for cannabis,
yeah. So
for the right to be treated with cannabis.
right. And see, you made a T-shirt there. Show us your T-shirt a little
Right.
bit.
Oh
Okay.
my God, T-shirt is great. I love it,
Okay. It says chemo versus cannabis. I have a right to choose.
and I do. I have a right to choose.
And that's exactly what we're fighting for at Indiana Normal, is giving people like Amazing Grace the chance to make their own decisions about their health care. It's as simple as that.